And in a move that angered even some of his most loyal supporters, Trump posted this image of himself as Jesus Christ. Now, plenty of people have been pointing out to the president that the religious fanatics led by a divine strongman are supposed to be on the other side.
So Piers Morgan just delivered the most devastating breakdown of Trump's presidency collapse. And frankly, he's absolutely right. We're watching a complete mental and political meltdown in real time. Morgan's connecting dots others won't touch. Let's break this down.
Just before we came on air, Trump deleted the image of himself as the Son of God, which is about as close as he's probably ever got to a genuine apology.
That deletion is unprecedented. In 8 years, Trump has maybe deleted 5 posts total. The fact that even he recognized this Jesus image crossed a line shows just how far gone his judgment has become. Classic narcissistic overreach meeting reality.
That's the upshot of the US president's latest Iran war gambit. A US naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is now in force. It will not reduce the global cost of oil and gas. In fact, quite the opposite. But it may stem the steady flow of cash flooding into Iran's coffers, one of the most perverse unintended consequences of the conflict so far.
Exactly the opposite of what Trump promised voters. He ran on bringing down gas prices and inflation. Now his Iran blockade is driving energy costs through the roof globally. American families are paying for Netanyahu's war games.
6 weeks and $30 billion worth of war have not changed Iran's nuclear potential. There's also no agreement on toll-free access to the Strait of Hormuz and on funding proxies like Hezbollah, without which it's extremely hard to argue the US has achieved anything much at all.
$30 billion with zero strategic gains. That's more than the entire State Department budget. Meanwhile, Iran's nuclear program is untouched, and they've actually strengthened their position in the Strait. Complete strategic failure.
Ultimately, though, if this all ends with the regime remaining in place, albeit with different people at the top, but all from the same regime with the same ideology, if the enriched uranium remains buried underground and the Americans and Israelis can't get their hands on it and the Iranians don't surrender it, and the Strait of Hormuz is now established as an incredibly effective strategic weapon, and Iran maintains some form of control over it, it's very hard to see how President Trump claims any real tangible victory here, and how the Iranian regime doesn't emerge, not just surviving, albeit with its military smashed up a bit, which it clearly has been, but actually possibly emboldened by all this.
This is the key insight. Iran emerges from this conflict stronger than before. They've proven they can shut down global shipping routes at will, their regime survived, and America looks weak and manipulated. Netanyahu played Trump perfectly.
Utterly perverse place where, having said that he would, blow up the whole of civilization in Iran, so 90 million people, if they didn't open the Strait of Hormuz, he is the one now launching a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
Threatening 90 million civilians with extinction, then implementing the exact policy that provoked them. It's not just contradictory, it's unhinged. No coherent military strategy, just rage-driven escalation without endgame planning.
And I've really reached the conclusion that he got into something, almost certainly at the enthusiastic behest of Israel. He's got into something that he now wishes he could get out of, but he's no idea how to get out of it.
The New York Times documented exactly this. Israeli intelligence fed Trump completely fabricated assessments about Iranian weakness and popular uprising potential. Netanyahu needed America's military might for his regional ambitions and got it.
And if they took out the Ayatollah, then the IRGC would be irrevocably damaged. Then the people would rise up and they'd all be so distracted that no one would notice the Straits of Hormuz and it would be irrelevant. None of that, apart from the first bit, has happened.
Every single Israeli prediction was deliberately false. No mass uprisings, IRGC intact, regime stronger than ever. Netanyahu sold Trump a fantasy to drag America into war, while Israel avoided the heavy lifting. Classic manipulation.
One was he was not going to drag America into pointless, expensive Middle Eastern wars. He's now dragged them into the biggest and most expensive one he could have done, and from where I sit, at the moment, the most pointless. Secondly, he was going to take care of cost of living. He was going to bring down inflation. And all that. Well, the complete opposite is happening.
Those were Trump's two core promises: America first foreign policy and lower consumer costs. He's delivered the exact opposite on both fronts. His base is watching their wallets get hammered for Israeli strategic goals.
I just think his behavior is the most erratic I've ever seen. I don't think you can hide behind, well, he's always like this, he likes to. It's more than that. It's almost, he's like he's on some weird frenzied mission now to just piss off as many people as he can humanly do for reasons that I don't, when you put it in totality, it's like, as you said, what is the end game?
That's crucial context. This isn't partisan criticism from a liberal pundit. This comes from someone who's known Trump personally for 2 decades and supported him. When allies this close start expressing genuine concern, it's significant.
I'm sure he is too. But if I was, the sheer volume of people that have been broadly pretty supportive of me, particularly second time around, that are now turning on him. And it's not just conservatives. You've got the Tuckers and the Megyn Kellys and the Candace Owens, Alex Jones. But you've also got Joe Rogan, Theo Von, hugely influential podcasters.
These podcasters delivered Trump's victory. Rogan alone probably shifted millions of young male voters. When your key media allies abandon ship, you've lost the narrative war. That's how political coalitions collapse.
I read the thing about, wanting to wipe out an entire civilization. I was really appalled by that. I just thought this is just a brazen statement of intent about potentially committing an act of genocide against the Iranian people. And then you look at the logic of this, which was his fury was because the Straits of Hormuz weren't being opened.
Threatening genocide against 90 million people over shipping lanes crosses every moral and strategic line. This isn't tough negotiating, it's the language of ethnic cleansing. Even hardcore supporters recognize the horror of that statement.
It is certainly true from what Rubio initially said and from the New York Times piece that Trump was put under an enormous amount of pressure by Netanyahu and the Israeli government because they painted a picture of a sequence of events that simply hasn't materialized. But ultimately, you're quite right, Dan, if you're the president of the United States, it's on you. It's on you where you take American military.
Presidential responsibility is absolute, but the manipulation matters for understanding how we got here. Trump got played by foreign intelligence services, but ultimately chose to sacrifice American blood and treasure for Netanyahu's regional agenda. Both things can be true.